Hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Thank you back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Thursday, July 15th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact Thursday, July 15th here today, coming off of Game 4 of the NBA Finals last night. The Milwaukee Bucks take Game 4 and even the series up at 2 games apiece. And a big win for the Milwaukee Bucks last night. New York Yankees get back to action today against the Boston Red Sox after the All-Star break and the little bit of a shorter All-Star break than usual. I think many of us can agree on that. Definitely a little bit of a shorter All-Star break. A lot more, not as much, a shorter All-Star break, not as much time off, and just about a 3-day break. Yankees played on Sunday, and we're back at it again here Thursday, and you had the Home Run Derby All-Star game Monday, Tuesday, then you had obviously Wednesday yesterday was just no baseball on, and today we got the Yankees and the Red Sox on, which is the only game on across the league. So all the rest of the league will be day off today. They will play again tomorrow, and the rest of the league doesn't play today. So Yankees, Red Sox on today, and the Bucks win last night's game. Like I mentioned, it was a big win for the Bucks. I mean, it really is. And you tie the series 2 games apiece, and you look at some of the big performances. I mean, Chris Middleton had a big game, and I've been saying that the entire series. If the Bucks want to win the series, if the Bucks wanted to win, and I said that at the beginning of the series, right? I'm not just saying that yesterday. I've been saying that at the beginning of the series. If the Bucks want to win the series, if the Bucks want to win the finals, you have to have guys like Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, guys like that step up. It can't just be Giannis and a bunch of other guys that are only putting up 11 or 15. It's got to be Giannis and, another 2 guys that are having big nights in order to win. And Giannis last night, he's been great in the playoffs. He had 26 points. So, he had 26 points, which is not 41, but he's still at a big game. Or 41, 42, however many he put up. But Chris Middleton last night had a big game, and he had the block late by Giannis, which was just, phenomenal. It was just unbelievable. DeAndre Ayton goes up for the ball. Goes up for the layup or the dunk. I'm not sure actually what it was, if it was a layup or dunk. It looked like he was going up for the dunk. And, Giannis just steps up and, just swats the ball. He just straight out of the nowhere. Giannis just steps up, put his body on the line and just lays everything out there. And, he was dominant. And that's really how Giannis has been playing this entire series. He's been playing it with that mindset of, I'm going to be dominant. I'm going to lay everything out there on the line. I'm going to leave everything out there on the court. I'm going to, risk my body. I'm going to, throw my body. Or if that's kind of a way to word it, I'm going to just do everything I can to go out and dominate and try and help my team win this series. And last night, yet again, he had another good game, 26 points. Not 41, not the dominant performance we've seen from him, but still 26 points. We saw him get the late block that won them the game. Chris Paul was, not very good. Devin Booker had a great game. But the Suns, they got to win Game 5. It's simple as that. And I've been saying that for a long time now. The Suns got to win Game 5. If you want to win the series, it all starts next game. And, this puts the pressure on the Suns now, because if you don't win Game 5, you're going to have a big issue trying to win Game 6, and you're going to have to go back to Milwaukee and stuff like that. So I would still say the Suns right now, although I think the pressure has shifted to the Suns, I still believe in the Suns, because now they go back to Phoenix. And worst case scenario, they win in Phoenix. That's not worst case scenario, but even if they win in Phoenix, worst case scenario, they lose Game 6 in Milwaukee, Game 7's back in Phoenix. So I do believe that the pressure is now back on the Suns. But I still believe the Suns have an advantage because they have 2 of the next possible 3 games remaining here. If they need to go to a Game 7, would be back in Phoenix. So I still feel like they hold that advantage above Milwaukee. But the Bucks are a different team than what they were in the first 2 games. They are a completely different team, and they are so dominant at home. And all the Suns I said needed to do, and it's not. I shouldn't say that. But the Suns, all I said was they just needed to find a way to win one. And last night they almost found a way, and they could not get the job done. So now it's back to trying to get the win back in Phoenix, and we'll see how the series plays out from there. Yankees-Red Sox tonight, start of a 4-game set, which I will talk about. First topic here, I wanted to get to a story that broke yesterday about a Yankees trade deadline rumor. I want to get to that, and I also kind of want to talk about the Yankees and how big this series is. And we'll figure out this series if the Yankees are buyers or sellers. Actually, this stretch of games coming out of the All-Star break. 11 of their first 13 games coming out of the All-Star break are against the Red Sox. 8 of those 13 are against the Red Sox. 3 of those 13 are against the Rays. The next 2 are against the Phillies. 11 of the 13 games coming out of the All-Star break, 8 against the Red Sox, 3 against the Rays, are against division opponents, and this is their season. This is the Yankee season. This 13-game stretch is the Yankee season. Obviously, you got the 2 Philly games in between of the Red Sox series. This is the Yankee season. This is it. Right? This is it. If the Yankees want to be buyers or sellers, I'm going to get to it. I don't want to spoil everything. I'll get to it. Let's get to the topics for today's podcast, though. We got Joey Gallo, Yankees, Padres rumors. Yesterday, a report came out about Joey Gallo and the trade rumors. Obviously, the Texas Rangers, a team that have no shot at making the playoffs, a team that is going through a rebuild, a team that is, building through the draft, obviously taking Jack Leiter, a team that has a lot of young guys like Adolis Garcia, and a lot of guys like that. They got a very young team. They got a very talented team. Although the Yankees did no-hit the Texas Rangers, they've got a young team. They've got some young, talented players like Kinner Falefa and Adolis Garcia and guys like that. But Joey Gallo, is one of those guys that could be a trade target and go to a contender. Yankees and Padres have shown interest in the Rangers star. I wanted to get into him. I would love the Yankees to go out and get Gallo. As much as many people might disagree, I will tell you why I would want to go out and get Gallo if I'm the New York Yankees. We'll get into that story to start it off, the Joey Gallo rumors. Then the next topic I'll get into is the Kawhi Leonard injury situation. As we all know, he missed the rest of the series against the Suns, got injured in the series against the Jazz, and what all of us fans expected and what many of the Clippers expected was just a sprain, nothing major. And sure enough, Kawhi Leonard 2 days ago or whatever it was technically yesterday, it was the day before that or whatever it was. So about a day or two ago, he got surgery on his knee, a partially torn ACL. And the way that impacts free agency, the way that impacts his future with the Clippers is just insane now. So it makes this offseason that much more interesting for the Los Angeles Clippers. And what's going to happen? Is Kawhi going to return? Is Kawhi going to leave? What's going to happen? It makes the offseason so much more interesting now. And very surprising news coming out of the injury front for Kawhi Leonard. I want to get into that, get into how it impacts his future with the Clippers and NBA free agency. Then I want to get into the New York Sports Update. Finish off the podcast with the New York Sports Update. Yesterday, I don't know if you saw in the thumbnail, I changed it to the Suns-Bucks preview because that's all I talked about for about 10 minutes to finish off the podcast yesterday. So same thing today. I'm going to talk, Yankees, Red Sox, and stuff like that. That's kind of it. Yankees, Red Sox today. And then tomorrow we'll be back to all the rest of stuff. And for the time being right now, after the NBA season's done, all we're going to talk about is baseball. So right now, how I'm doing it I'm kind of doing right now where I probably am just going to talk about baseball, up until, NFL season, and we'll get to both. But, the New York Sports Update, or Sports Update, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of dwindling a little bit. We had, at the beginning of it was hockey, basketball, baseball, all of those. And now it's just basketball and baseball, but basketball only's got a couple more games left. We have 3 more games max left in the NBA season, 5, 6, and 7. They give games 5, 6, and 7 if they need to be played. We know we have 2 more games left in the NBA season if needed at Game 7 back in Phoenix. So we'll get to the recap last night's game. We'll get to tonight's Yankees-Red Sox game, a start of a 4-game set. And with all that being said, we got a very big podcast ahead. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So Joey Gallo trade rumors. Yankees, Padres expected to be interested in Rangers star. So this is some pretty big news coming out of the trade rumor front. As we all know, the trade deadline is nearing. July 31st is the MLB trade deadline. We stand right now at July 15th, so we're only about 16 days away from the trade deadline. So on Saturday, we'll be exactly 2 weeks away from the MLB trade deadline. Obviously, it's a big day for the MLB. It's a big day for a lot of teams out there. It's a big day all around for the MLB, and it's going to be especially a very interesting day, and it's going to be a big day leading up to it, to what the New York Yankees decide to do with the MLB trade deadline. And in years past, obviously, I've mentioned this a ton of times involving Brian Cashman and the Yankees. We've stayed quiet at the trade deadline. And I still have that feeling that out of all this talk, out of all these rumors, out of all these things people are saying, the Yankees will find a way not to make any moves at the trade deadline, because we always seem to do that every single year. Every single year, the Yankees and Brian Cashman seem to just not make any moves at the trade deadline, feel that they like the team that they have, and then the team ends up doing nothing. But this year, it's big, because this year's trade deadline could decide what the Yankees team looks like for the next 3 to 4 years. And I believe that this next stretch of games might be the biggest stretch of games we have seen for a Yankees team in recent memory. And I don't mean that this is I don't mean that this stretch of games is going to depend whether or not the Yankees make the playoff, or not make the playoffs, whether or not the Yankees go in a rebuild or not, or whether this franchise goes down in the dumps or not, whether this team goes from being a World Series contender to going through a massive rebuild. But I mean, it's going to decide what they do at the trade deadline. And this next stretch of 11 to 13 games for the New York Yankees are pivotal for the franchise. Right now, if the Yankees struggle in these next 13 games coming out of the All-Star break, in worst case scenario, they go 3-10, you're probably going to see them blow it up. And I mean, I don't know if I mean blow it up in terms of trade everyone away, but I do mean trade some guys away, get prospects, maybe Gleyber Torres, maybe I don't want to really say anyone else, because it's just so hard to say. Gleyber Torres is obviously probably the big name that you would say try to trade him. Now, he's struggled this season, so you might not get as much in return for him, but there's definitely some guys in this roster that you could say are on the trade block. And this stretch of 13 games for the New York Yankees not only will decide and depend on whether or not they probably go out and get Joey Gallo, because I believe if the Yankees go out and get Joey Gallo, and we're sitting here on July 31st and we're talking about the Yankees trading for Joey Gallo, I believe that means that that's a move that the Yankees are in a contending position trying to make a wild card. That means that they come out of this 13-game stretch here with a winning record and they're rolling. Now, if they come out of this 13-game stretch with, a 4-9 record, a 3-10 record, worst case, you win 2 games in the next 13 days, which I don't believe is going to happen. I don't think the Yankees are that bad. Then you blow everything up, and this trade doesn't happen. But the Yankees right now are in a very big situation. The next 13 games will decide whether or not the New York Yankees will not only make the playoffs, but whether or not the Yankees will I don't know a perfect word to say, because I don't want to say throw the season, meaning like just blow it all up, or not blow it all up, but just, forget about the season. I kind of want to really use the word of, reset, kind of hit the reset button a little bit, and, kind of just start over a little bit, forget about playoffs for this year, and hit the reset button and decide a lot of other moves, a lot of other contracts that are on your hand in the offseason. Right? Because I don't know how I feel about the Yankees just giving up everything at the trade deadline, selling everything, and then going into the offseason with no pieces whatsoever to build on. Like, no pieces. Like, you're going to look at a roster that's, like, deserted. Like, you're going to look at a roster with so many holes, and you're not going to have enough. You're not going to really be able to fill those holes in, because you're not going to have the pieces, because you're going to have already given so much up. That's why I don't want all these Yankee fans saying, oh, blow it all up. Yeah, you could blow it all up, but you're really going to be okay when we go into the offseason with literally no one on our roster? I don't know how I feel about that. These 13 games are big. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I will continue to say the same thing. They're huge. I mean, they're pivotal. They are something that the Yankees need to win at least half these games. And I'm not even saying at least half. 7-6, that's it. That's even You go 9-4, Yankees, you gotta feel good about that. If the Yankees go 9-4 in these next 13 games, you gotta feel good about that. If they go 10-3, that's amazing. You're talking about, you know what, we're buying at the trade deadline. We got to go all out and try to make the playoffs. If you, worst case scenario, like I said, you win 2 games in the next 13 days here, or 13 days rather, 13 games, that's bad. But it will decide a lot. So, in terms of Joey Gallo, the Yankees trade rumors are trying to get Joey Gallo. And I get it. The Yankees this season have had many flaws, right? At the beginning of the season, our pitching was dominant. Our bullpen was dominant. We were night in and night out. Like, our pitching was giving us great performances, and our hitting wasn't stepping up. Like, our pitching would allow 3 runs across 9 innings, allow only like 4 hits, and our offense would give us 1 run and 3 hits, right? So that's how it was in the beginning part of the season. Our pitching was dominant, our hitting was terrible, and our bullpen, was dominant. I mean, that's when Aroldis Chapman went, his first, I don't know how many appearances. He had, 8 or 9 appearances to start the season where he didn't allow a run. He was dominant to start the year. And now he's been terrible recently, and he hasn't pitched in a little bit here. So, now things have started to change. Then the Yankees' hitting started to get a little better. Pitching started to hit a little bit of decline. And then you go into the bullpen, and the bullpen's been really bad recently. You can't even trust anyone really out of that bullpen. And, it's tough to see that, because the bullpen was so dominant in April, May, and June. And, I should say April and May, because June's when Chapman started to struggle more. And now in June and now here in the early parts of July, we've seen the bullpen continue to struggle. The Yankees have had many issues this season. First base, when Luke Voit was hurt, first base was a major issue. You started off with Jay Bruce, never worked. Mike Ford, never worked. You had LeMahieu over there a little bit. It's not that it didn't work, but you just can't have LeMahieu as your everyday first baseman because you need him. You need his defense. You need his ability at second base. Then you have Gittins over there, which, Gittins was only up for a couple games, and then Voit got called back up, and now Voit's been really good since he's come off the IL for the second time. And now first base we're still not getting the production that we want, but we're getting much better production than we had in the earlier season. And you could even say shortstop's been an issue for the New York Yankees and all that stuff. And you might think I'm just going on a little bit of a tirade here. It will all connect back at some point. Shortstop's been an issue for the Yankees. All of a sudden, the pitching turned into a little bit of an issue. Although we've seen Tyone be better. We've seen guys like Nestor Cortez come in and step in that second role to fill in for Michael King, who's on the IL. And we've seen him really take over. So there's been some bright spots, but the bullpen still is one of the issues. Out of the entire season, though, there's been many little issues. First base, when Voit was injured, first base was an issue. Was awful. That might have been our worst position. Oh, not might have been, it was. Outfield's been an issue. Center field, right field, or not right field, that's Judge's spot, rather. Left field, it's been an issue. Clint Frazier has not been good. Brett Gardner has not had a good season. I like Brett Gardner a lot. You can't say he's had a good season when he's batting in the 190s. Okay? There's been a lot of issues on this team. But one of the big issues that the New York Yankees have had, not just this year, but even in years past, for the past couple seasons, is not having a lefty bat that can deliver you power and give you and take advantage of the short porch, is what I should say. I shouldn't say give you power that goes over the short porch. That short porch in right field is something that the Yankees, in their own ballpark, do not do a good job taking advantage of. And I don't know if this is true or not. This is just from my opinion. This is just from my observations of watching Yankees games. I feel like more right-handed hitters hit them over that short porch than left-handed hitters do. And you want to know why? Because the Yankees have no lefties. We have one lefty that plays pretty much every day, and that's Brett Gardner. Oh, Aaron Hicks is a switch hitter. Oh, guess what? He's done for the year. Odor's a lefty. Guess what? Nothing against Odor. He's not playing every day. The only time he plays is when Voit has a day off and when LeMahieu moves over to first and he's at second. Odor does not play every day. So saying Odor's another lefty bat, yeah, no. He's not. Is he in the lineup every day? No. Now, I get it. You're always going to have more of a righty lineup. Lefties, in any sport, lefties are less common. But the Yankees, for a stadium that has a short porch in right field, for a stadium that literally, is calling for a lefty power hitter to come in Yankee Stadium and just dominate. The Yankee Stadium, the short porch in right field. I know I've talked about this a ton, but I can't stress enough. There has not been a lefty in recent memory of the Yankees. I mean, you're going back a little bit, but recently, I'm talking about the last 3-4 years, that we've had a lefty that really delivered power to the short porch in right field. Judge has hit more home runs, I believe, to the right field than many of our lefties. And I shouldn't even say many because we have none. The Yankees don't have lefties. We have Brett Gardner. And I love Brett Gardner. He's been an awesome Yankee. He will go down as one of the better Yankees. He's had a great Yankee career. But he's old. He's old. He's getting out of his prime, okay? He's not going to be able to deliver 15, 20 home runs. He's not going to be able to deliver lefty power coming out of the lefty batter's box. He's struggling this year. He's batting like 190. The Yankees need a true lefty. The Yankees need a guy that can solve outfield issues. Joey Gallo checks all those boxes. And I'm not talking about a guy to stand up there and only hit home runs. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying about a guy that can be disciplined at the plate, not look at called strike threes right down the middle, give you solid power in the lineup, and just be another lefty. Because the Yankees have none. And I'm not necessarily saying we have to go, if we're going to go out and get Joey Gallo, that means Gardner's not going to get any playing time. I'm not saying that. I mean, Gardner and Gallo could be in the lineup together. That would give us two lefties. But right now, in the Yankees' normal lineup that they roll out, and I could probably memorize it off the top of my head here, it's LeMahieu, Judge, Sanchez, Stanton, Voit, Torres, Urshela. Where am I? I think I'm like 7 in. Then usually it's, on a normal basis, it's usually Andujar, and then, I don't know, wait, I lost it here a little bit. So it's usually LeMahieu, Judge, Sanchez, Stanton, Torres, Urshela, that's 6. Then usually, right now it's been LeCastro, Gardner, right, LeCastro is now in the lineup because Andujar is on the IL. But when Andujar is not on the IL, it's usually Andujar. That doesn't matter, though, because they're both righties. But the lefties. Where do you see the lefties in that lineup? LeMahieu, right-handed. Judge, right-handed. Stanton, right-handed. Although I'm saying it out of order. Judge, Sanchez, Stanton, both right-handed. We have, in the normal lineup we roll out, 8 of the 9 batters that are hitting are right-handed. The only lefty is Brett Gardner. And Brett Gardner has not given us the production that we want this season. Now, sure, has he had some big games? Yes. Sure, has he had some big hits? Yes. But he's not what he once was. And that's not a knock on him. I like him a lot. I had no issue with the Yankees bringing him back. But the Yankees need someone else that's going to be able to contribute more from the left-handed side. And it's not even that, I'm not saying that now that if we get Gallo, it means that we're going to sit Gardner or anyone else like that. I'm just saying if we get Gallo, that you have 2 lefties. The Yankees just don't have lefties. We don't. We don't have lefties. And you could sit here and say, oh, Hicks does. And no, Hicks is not a good lefty. He's a switch hitter that could bat from the right and left side. He's done nothing for us in the years he's been here. He's done absolutely nothing. He's done nothing. So you can't sit here and tell me, oh, well, we have Hicks. Yeah, no. Hicks has done nothing. You can't sit here and tell me that we've had Odor. Now, Odor, he doesn't play every day. So you can't, nothing against Odor. He doesn't play every day. He's a backup. He doesn't play every day. So you can't say, oh, well, we have Odor when he doesn't play every day. The main lefty that's playing every day is Gardner. When Gardner's not in the lineup, we have no lefties. If Gardner and Odor are in the lineup, we have no lefties. That is extremely sad for a team that stadium welcomes lefties. And Gallo, who was in the home run derby, has got amazing power from the right side. He could play a couple different left side rather. He could play a couple different positions. I'm all for the Yankees just going out and get a lefty batter. I really am. And I think that's got to be one of the Yankees' top priorities, not only in the offseason, but when you get to the trade deadline. Whether we are taking a step back or whether we're going to go all in for a playoff spot. The Yankees at the trade deadline need to address the lefty batter issue because you just need to. You can't sit here and tell me that the Yankees are going to be okay with going the entire year with one lefty in the lineup. I mean, you look at the other team, there's balance. I mean, geez, the Mets, yes, I understand Lindor struggled. He's a switch hitter. But, I mean, most of the time he's batting lefty because most of the pitchers are the righties, right? He's batting second, and mainly he's a switch hitter, yes, but he could bat. When he's up there at second and he's a lefty, he's batting lefty. Like, your second hitters can bat lefty. Like, the Yankees don't have that. Also lefty too, if you need a guy that, can just, whatever it is. The Yankees just, it's been a glaring issue in Cashman. It's like many of the issues on the Yankees. He just avoids to address them. And I know some Yankee fans might want to stay away from Gallo because he is more of a power hitter. He's not as much as a singles, doubles type guy, but he is an all-star this season. He's good, very good defensively. A guy that is, has been in the league a little bit here. I believe he's a two-time all-star. A guy that delivers power. And that's what the Yankees need, is power from the left side. Because we have not had that in a recent memory here, and we don't have it again this season. As much as I like Gardner, he's not a guy that's going to give you much power from the right side. Or the left side. I'm keep on saying right side. I'm getting mixed up because right field. The Yankees need a guy that's going to deliver from the left side. And I know, like I said, Yankee fans, you can hate this all you want, but what's one of the Yankees' biggest flaws? Left-handed hitting. I mean, I've said this a couple times now. Yankee Stadium is built for lefties. And the home team has one lefty in the lineup, night in and night out. That's just unacceptable. You can't have that. You can't. And, I'm not saying that the Yankees need to have 5 lefties or 6 lefties in the lineup, but at least 2 to 3. I mean, at least. I mean, if you get Gallo, okay, that's 2 lefties. All right, you're building. And I'm not even just saying get 5 lefties. I'm just saying, can we get a lefty that's going to be consistent at the plate? Get a lefty that's going to give us power, give us, take advantage of the short porch in right field. Give us a couple really short 320-foot home runs. I'm not asking for you to hit a home run every at-bat. But when you have a short porch like that, you need to have a guy that's going to take advantage of it. It can't be our righties all the time going opposite field. We got to have a lefty that can pull. And Gallo can be a pull hitter. Watch him in the Derby. He did not put on the best performance. He came back, but he hit a lot of his home runs to the left side. I mean, he's a pull hitter. That's what we need. So, I think this would be a perfect move for the Yankees. And as I mentioned, whether or not we are going to build on the playoffs or take a step back, either way, I think you got to go out and try and get a lefty. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to get Gallo in that point because I think Gallo is going to want to go to a contender. Now, the teams that's taken a step back, but we'll see how everything plays out. Like I mentioned, these 13 games for the Yankees, this is their season. All right, we can't be focused as fans, players. You can't be focused on the Houston series. That's done. People are still worried about the Houston series. You can't focus on that. As I mentioned on my podcast on Monday, that's out of the equation. You got to stop, you can't focus on that. It's a new season. That's how I look at it. It's a new season. Your record is 0-0 in the second half, and you start from here. And you start up against your rivals tonight against Boston. And these 13 games will decide what you do. And, that's what I really feel like. This is your season right here. Like, this is your season. These 13 games are your season. If you go 8-5 in these 13 games, if you go 6-7, 7-6, it's going to leave Cashman with a lot of questions. If the Yankees want to make it complicated for Cashman, then go 7-6. If you want to make it easy, go 10-3, 9-4, and make it easy. Hey, we're not blowing this thing up. This is big though. So let's get to this quick article here about Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo trade rumors. Yankees, Padres expected to be interested in Ranger star. Padres are also interested. I talked more about the Yankees, why they need him more than the Padres. But the Padres, I could see them getting him too. Good defender. A guy that can also build on a lefty bat. And another guy too that, can bring power to the Padres. Padres have a lot of power already. You could continue to build with that. Also bring a veteran to a relatively younger locker room with, guys like Cronenworth and guys like Tatis and different guys like that. Texas Rangers slugger Joey Gallo will likely be a top trade target ahead of July 30th deadline. July 30th, rather. And the New York Yankees could be a potential destination. According to Joel Sherman of the New York Post, the Yankees have consistently had eyes for Gallo. Opposing teams also expected the San Diego Padres to be interested in the right fielder, Per Sherman. Padres general manager AJ Preller was with the Rangers when they drafted Gallo in the first round of 2012. Gallo is an obvious trade target as a high-achieving player on a struggling team. The 27-year-old earned his second All-Star selection this season while hitting 24 home runs with 52 RBIs in 84 games. He makes up for his 239 batting average with a 402 on base percentage. That would be a career high for a full season. He gets on base too. With 2 seasons of 40 home runs and a Gold Glove award on his resume, like I said, he's a good defender, which is what the Yankees need as well. We could use some defense. Resume, Gallo will be quality addition for a lot of teams. He also doesn't hit free agency until after the 2022 season. So you'll have him under contract for all the rest of next season as well if you decide to go that route or whatever you decide to do with him. It hasn't been enough to help the Rangers, who sit in last place in the AL West with a 35-55 record. But a trade could help restock the farm system for a rebuild. The Yankees would love this type of addition to help the offense that has underachieved this season. The squad entered the All-Star break ranked 23rd in runs scored after finishing in the top 5 of the category in each of the last 4 years. The left-handed Gallo would also add bounds to the lineup led by right-handers. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Gary Sanchez, and DJ LeMahieu. San Diego could also use another power hitter in the lineup alongside Fernando Tatis Jr., who has 28 home runs. Manny Machado ranks second on the team with 15 homers. The Padres are 53-40 going into the second half of the year, but they sit in third place in the NL West and 6 games out of first in arguably the toughest division in baseball. And, I mentioned it. This article mentioned it. A lineup just pounded by righties. Can Brian Cashman find a way to string together a deal and get a lefty bat in this lineup? Another lefty? A lefty bat that's going to give you power, get on base. Can Brian Cashman figure out a way to get this deal? And we'll find out if the Yankees are going to get Gallo or not in the 13 games. Because, like I said, Yankees, in the offseason, that has to be something the Yankees has to address. We could win the World Series this year, for all I know. For all I care. We could go on and win the World Series. Lefty, you got to get a lefty in the offseason. If you don't get one at the trade deadline, you got to address in the offseason. I don't care how the season finishes. I don't care if you move on to the playoffs and make a magical run and win the World Series. Lefty bat, or I will care if you win the World Series, but I'm saying a lefty bat has to be our priority at the trade deadline and the offseason. I would tend to say probably offseason because then you'll have to make the decision on Gardner, whether he's coming back or not. He signed a 1-year deal that could be a 2-year. I believe it has a team option, so we'll see if the Yankees decide to pick that up. And also what you do with Odor and stuff like that. And also Hicks. There's a chance that the Yankees could have no lefties on their lineup next season. Hicks could be a switch hitter. He is a switch hitter. After this injury, who knows what's going to happen with him. He could be done. Odor, I'm not sure what all of his contract is. I don't know if he'll return. Gardner, I believe it's a team option. It's a 1-year deal. That could be a 2-year deal. We'll figure out what the team does. There's a chance the Yankees have no lefties next season, which means it just makes it more of a reason why we need to go out and get a lefty. I'm tired of, and it's not the Yankees' fault. They have no lefties, so it's Brian Cashman's fault. But it's not. It's not any of the players' fault. Like you can't sit here and complain and say, "Oh, I hate all the righties on this lineup." No, you can't say that. It's not their fault. It's the construction of this lineup. The Yankees have had a couple lefties come through here that we thought might have been the answer. Greg Bird, not the answer. When the Yankees picked up Hicks, Brian Cashman was very high on him. He's a switch hitter. Not the answer, obviously. Gardner's been great from the lefty, but, he's also a guy that's his career's coming to an end. He's not going to be able to play. He's not going to be in the league much longer. He's been a great lefty for, his entire, 14-year career. With the Yankees, this is a guy too. His career's coming to an end. So this is a guy who, his lefty bat too is, coming to an end a little bit there. Odor you pick up. He's not a guy that you would have expected to play every day. He's not playing every day. So Yankees are just so thin at that area. And you could complain about all the other things about the Yankees, I think the non-lefties in his lineup, I think, is the biggest issue in terms of hitting. Because I think that's also why we're not hitting. It's easy for teams to prepare. Oh, we got a righty. All right, let's do this or let's do that, right? It's so much, it doesn't, if you throw different looks and maybe a lefty in the 3-hole or something like that, if you throw different looks at them, all of a sudden it makes teams like, okay, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? Because if you throw a righty, that's an advantage for that guy, whatever the case may be. Like, you just got to have a mix-up. You just got to have a little bit of a mix. And the Yankees right now don't have that, and I would love to go out and get Joey Gallo. Your guy who is very good on defense, which the Yankees have been thin this season. We've had some bad defensive plays. He's very good at the plate. He delivers power. He gives you veteran presence. He's an all-star he's an all-star this season. I'm not talking about him being an all-star 10 years ago. I'm talking about he was an all-star this year. I think it's a move. He could also play multiple different positions. I think this is a move that the Yankees got to try to capitalize on. But, we got to see how it all plays out. He's an outfielder, first baseman, and third baseman. He could play 3 different positions on the field. First base and outfielder are his main positions. Outfielder, I believe, is his main position. First base, technically secondary position. And third base is, I guess, his third position. But, 2, adds a weakness. Yankees this season have had a big issue in the outfield. You bring in an outfielder. This move checks so many different boxes. And I'm going to leave it at that. That's what I'm going to leave it at. This move checks a whole lot of boxes, and we'll see if the Yankees do anything. We'll see how the Yankees do. We'll see what the Yankees decide to do. All I'm saying is he gives you defense. He gives you a lefty bat. He gives you some power. I think this move checks a lot of boxes and checks a lot of things that the New York Yankees are in need of. So that's what I got for the Joey Gallo rumors. And all that stuff, as you all know, Yankees play start up tonight. And, coming up next year, I want to get into Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard has gotten surgery for a partially torn ACL. Was not expecting this news to come across, given that they kind of just labeled it as a strain. But free agency, his future with the Clippers just got a whole lot more interesting. We'll get into that coming up next. All right, so Clippers Kawhi Leonard undergoes surgery on torn ACL suffered versus Jazz. So very, very surprising news here coming out of LA and coming out of the Los Angeles Clippers that Kawhi Leonard has gotten surgery on a partially torn ACL. Now, it's on this article, it did say torn ACL. It is a partially torn ACL. It is not a full tear. If it was a full tear, you'd probably be done for the remainder of the season, remainder of next season, and you would have to wait until 2022 free agency to see where he goes, or the 2022 season to see what happens. This is surprising, no doubt. And before I get into the whole Kawhi Leonard thing and the whole how this impacts free agency, all of us fans, the Clippers, all of us NBA fans, Clippers organization, Clippers fans, we all just thought that it was a strain or a sprain, a high-level sprain. That's what we all expected it was. And that's what the Clippers labeled it as. I mean, there was times where they said that he was questionable and he would try to work it out, let alone he was working with a partially torn ACL. This is something that's really surprising because I think we all thought when this injury happened, well, at first when the injury happened, you don't know. A ton of things could go through your head about it, but it didn't seem like a partially torn ACL. And the Clippers labeled it as, we're taking it easy. We got to see how this all goes. And now all of a sudden, he's already gotten surgery on it to repair the partially torn ACL. Now, it is not a full-blown torn ACL, so he will be back by, I would say, January of next season. The season obviously starts in October, so he'll miss about 3 months, which, to be honest, 3 months might sound like a lot. It's really not. It's only probably about 35, 40 games he'll miss. Considering, right, October, November, December, comes back January. There's a chance I think he might come back early January. I think worst case he comes back February. But to be honest, I don't really think like 30 games. It might seem like a lot. Like 3 months might seem like a lot. It doesn't. It's not that much. 35 games for an 82 game season. He might miss about 35 games plus some of the minutes restriction. You're just going off of like the perfect return. We're talking about no setbacks. We're talking about maybe not a crazy fast recovery. We're just talking about the normal recovery time is a couple months plus the rehab. You got to get back out on the court. You got to probably have a couple rehab games. You got to go out, minutes restriction, all that stuff. But this right here, him suffering a partially torn ACL, just complicates free agency so much more. Because I will tell you this. He complicates free agency so much more because of this. Are teams now, after they learn that he is a partially torn ACL, are they going to want to take the risk of signing him to a mega deal and he not playing for 30, 35 games of next season, and then, by the time he comes back full time, plus the games he's going to miss a couple back-to-backs, he might only play next season around 30 games. So are you going to take the risk of giving this guy all the money now that he's coming off a partially torn ACL, coming off of the surgery? Are you going to give the risk of giving Kawhi Leonard all the money, and then next season after this year, then he's going to get into his 30s, I believe he'll be 31, and all of a sudden he's getting older, and if you sign him to this big 4-year deal, there's a concern there that he might not give you the production of what many people expect and what he's given you throughout his career. Like, are the Knicks, for example, not saying the Knicks are going to go out and get him. This isn't a prediction. I'm just laying out a team out there. Let's say the Knicks would to decide to go out and try to get Leonard. Are they now going to do, is that it's got to be on the back of teams' minds now that all of a sudden, oh no, he's got a partially torn ACL. Do we throw the bank at this guy? Do we give this guy all the money for him maybe only to play 40 games this season? Do we give this guy the money for a guy that's going to maybe only play 35, 40 games this season and then be 31 at the beginning of next year? This complicates things so much more. Because Kawhi Leonard now also has a decision to make. Because you got to know teams are going to be alarmed by this. Teams are going to be alarmed by the fact that he is got a partially torn ACL. And as you get injuries, right, age always is going to happen in sports. As you age, you're going to get a little weaker, a little less firepower. And as you age, and then if you get a big injury, it's only going to make you more weaker. Now, I'm not saying that Kawhi Leonard's going to be terrible for the rest of the career just because he has a partially torn ACL. Torn ACLs are not good. They're bad. But the recovery rate on them is pretty good, because a lot of guys are able to come back, able to recover, and able to be at least close to what they once were. Now, we'll see what happens with Kawhi Leonard. It's a guy that, it's all interesting to see. We'll see what happens with him. But teams have to be a little concerned now, because there was always that little bit with Leonard is the age, right? The age factor. He's 30 now. Not saying he's going to retire in 3 years, but you could say you at least will get at least 4 more good years out of him up until he's probably about 33, 34, maybe 35. And then after that, he might play another 6, 7 more years. But after that, you're talking about a guy that, might be, it might start to get to the point where he's not as good as he once was. He needs someone else. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be able to lead a team. He's not going to be able to be a guy that's going to be the same. And now you add the partially torn ACL on top of it, and you're like, okay, well, a guy who's already 30, the age is going to get to him eventually. Add the injury on it. He's going to be 31 at the beginning of next season. It's like all of a sudden things start to all of a sudden start to snowball for opposing teams. And maybe this is something with Kawhi Leonard now where maybe he takes a safe route and goes ahead and say, all right, I'm going to opt back into my contract. I'm going to stay with the Clippers. I'm going to play the season out, and we'll see what we'll tackle this again next offseason. Or maybe now, and this is also a concern now, this isn't with Kawhi Leonard, this is more with the Clippers. Has Kawhi Leonard lost trust in the Clippers? Because the Clippers organization, the medical team, they all just labeled it as a sprain. They all just labeled it as a bad knee sprain, as a bad injury. They never labeled it as a partially torn ACL. They never labeled it as something that's going to need surgery. They never labeled it as something that's going to need surgery and going to need to be out for 30, 35, 40 games next season. Has Kawhi Leonard now lost the sense of trust with the Clippers organization? Because now he had to get surgery, and the Clippers never labeled it as anything this severe. Has now Leonard almost lost trust, lost that sense of, I believe in the medical team, I believe in this team to do what's right? Kind of has he lost that now? Because what they told him is completely false. They were labeling it as questionable, this and this, and all of a sudden, he's got to get surgery, or he's gotten surgery. Is that going to impact what Kawhi Leonard decides to do this offseason? And I think it very well could. Because now, does he have the full enough trust to say, you know what? I'm okay with returning to this team. I think he might have lost a lot of trust in this organization. Especially given that's a free agency year. Given that, not that they knew, but maybe they wanted to cover it up. Not make it public. And now all of a sudden, the Clippers could have ruined Kawhi's free agency a little bit. Because there is no doubt in my mind, and you guys could sit here and disagree, Kawhi Leonard, if he does decide to opt out of his contract and become a free agent, teams are going to be genuinely concerned about maybe giving him a big 4-year deal with him just coming off of a torn ACL. People are going to be concerned. Teams are going to be concerned. Players, coaches, organization, they're going to be concerned. Are you willing to give a guy a big 4-year deal coming off in his 30s, coming off a torn ACL? Are you willing to go all out for him and hope that he can get back to what he was and try to lead your team to great things? Are you willing to do that? And is Kawhi willing to go out and opt out of his contract and maybe not get the deals that he wants and maybe have to settle for a deal? This made free agency go from interesting, because we already knew it was going to be interesting. We already knew with Kawhi Leonard having to opt out. We already knew with Kawhi Leonard having to opt out, or not opt out. We already knew Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers this season not winning a championship for the second straight year. We already knew it was going to be big. We already knew it was going to be, an issue. We already knew it was going to be interesting, rather. And now it's gotten way more interesting because, with the injury, the surgery, and now all of a sudden, what is a team going to do? Is he going to get the deals that he wants? Were 7 teams going to be involved in this and now maybe only 3? I mean, it's still Kawhi Leonard. And I don't believe that this is going to be an injury that's going to just completely destroy the trajectory of his career. I don't believe all of a sudden now he's going to be able to only play 3 more years and he's going to be done after that. I don't believe that. I mean, if this was a different injury, KD recovered very well from the torn Achilles, but let's say this was like a torn Achilles, there might be that little bit of a doubt of, oh gosh, is this guy going to be able to return? But with a partially torn ACL, it's a bad injury. It obviously needs to be repaired. He's going to miss some time. But if you look at the past, if you look at the history, players have been able to recover. Players have been able to return to themselves after that. And teams are going to need to look at that. Because if a team is willing to take the risk now of signing Kawhi after this, you're going to need to just hope that he turns into what he was. But this does make Kawhi Leonard have a very tough decision. Because if he decides to opt out of his contract and he becomes a free agent, all of a sudden, he might not get the deals that he was expecting, and he might have to settle for something. And that's when issues are going to start to boil. That's when, if things don't start to go right away, that's when turmoil and stuff like that starts. Is when a player is not completely happy with where he landed. He landed there anyway because he had to settle. And if things aren't going right, issues could start to occur. And I like Kawhi Leonard a lot. I take that back. I shouldn't say I don't like him. I have no issue with Kawhi Leonard. I really don't. I like that he just goes out, plays the game, does his own thing. I'm not a huge fan of him taking all the time off, doing the load management and stuff like that. I'm not a huge fan of that. I will always say that. I was always lived by that. I'm not a huge fan of that. I know a lot of fans might disagree and say, he needs to be, fully healthy for the full season. I get that, but I'm not a huge fan of the whole thing like that. I have no issue with Kawhi. The one issue I do have with Kawhi is the load management. And that's going to be another issue that teams are going to have to take into account. Is if, in fact, he does sign a mega deal with another team, you're going to have to take into account of, okay, he's going to miss 35 games. Automatically. He's going to miss 35 games. Plus, he's probably going to miss a couple back-to-backs in there, although there won't be as many back-to-backs this season because there's not going to be a condensed schedule. He's probably going to miss a couple back-to-backs, especially coming right off the injury. He's going to miss his normal couple of games. He's going to miss his normal games that he usually misses. And he might only play in his first season, let's say, he might only play 30 games. He might miss 30 because of the injury, maybe miss a little bit more, make a couple, place a couple more, whatever it is. He's automatically going to miss 30 games plus whatever else. He might only play about 30, 32 games this season. So it goes back to my point with giving him the money. Is a team willing to pay him big amount of money to only play about 30 games this year, maybe 60 games next season, 60 games the year after that? Because it does make a big difference. If you were going to pay him the money, he was going to go out and play 60 games this season. That's Kawhi Leonard. That's what he usually plays. I believe in the past 4 years, he's averaged 60 games played per season out of the 82, which isn't much. But that's just how he is. You're not going to see Kawhi Leonard play all 82 games. Especially as he's getting older and he's getting in his 30s and things like that. I know a lot of people might say it's all of a sudden taking a risk trying to go out and get Kawhi Leonard. I don't know if I would so much call it a risk anymore, but you're definitely gonna have to you're definitely gonna have to maybe take a double take on this. You don't have to look at the big picture. This guy's gonna want a lot of money if in fact he does go free agency. And if he doesn't, then oh no, how does he feel about the Clippers handling injuries in the future? And the Clippers might have just lost Kawhi Leonard by mishandling this. Because you could consider this a mishandling of an injury. Because obviously Kawhi went on his own to some specialists. He obviously went on his own and said, you know what, I'm not right. This knee is still not right. He obviously went on his own and got it checked out. And obviously they diagnosed it as partially torn ACL. He got that as his own. I don't believe that the Clippers said that it was a partially torn ACL. Clippers all along were taking it easy and saying it was this and that. It was a sprain. It was nothing major. Hyperextended. Nothing major. Kawhi obviously didn't believe that. Went on his own. And now look. It has completely changed the trajectory of free agency. Because now you're going to get a guy that's not going to play October, November, or December. He'll probably play with you in January. And then he'll be 31. And then, okay, what now? And Kawhi Leonard, too, might not get all the deals, might not get the offers that he was expecting all along now because teams might not want to take that big risk of signing a guy to a mega deal who might only play 30 games in his first season. And another thing, too, is then what did the Clippers do with Paul George? I've talked about this for the longest time now. What the Clippers are going to do in the offseason is what is going to depend on what Kawhi Leonard does. If Kawhi Leonard decides to leave and go somewhere else, well, then the Clippers should hit the restart button. If Kawhi Leonard decides to stay, then okay, Clippers are in a fine position. It all depends on what Kawhi Leonard wants to do. That's how I see it. Kawhi Leonard wants to stay. You don't hit the reset button. You go ahead and run it back. If Kawhi Leonard now wants to leave, you got to hit the reset button. You got to decide what to do with Paul George. And that's another thing. Let's say Knicks, right? They don't have another superstar. I mean, they have Julius Randle, but he's more of a 2 than a 1. Let's say the Knicks go out and get him. Are you willing to have? Are you okay? Do you believe that Kawhi, coming off of this injury, is going to be able to single-handedly, most part, lead this team to the championship without a true superstar next to him. I mean, did with Toronto, but things change. And I do think that this might be crazy, but a lot of people do think this. There's a chance that the Clippers just lost Kawhi Leonard with the handling of this injury, and he might want out, and he might want, you know what, no, I don't trust this. I don't trust him anymore. That might be it. And I don't blame him. I mean, labeling it as this and this and this, and then having it as a partially torn ACL, that's big. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie, he had a partially torn ACL. He played, 3 games? He missed the rest of the season. You know, Kawhi's lucky that this didn't happen in the middle of the year, or Kawhi's lucky that this didn't happen, now, and he might miss another couple more weeks. It stinks. At least he's got the offseason to recover, which might make it a little bit more easier because he might, maybe he recovers a little quicker. I'm not entirely sure, but we got to see how it all plays out. Definitely a big story here. So Clippers, Kawhi Leonard undergoes surgery on torn ACL suffered versus Jazz. Los Angeles Clippers star Kawhi Leonard underwent surgery to repair the partially torn right ACL he suffered during his team's second-round victory over the Utah Jazz per Shams Charania of the Athletic Ant Stadium. Leonard, 30, suffered the knee injury in Game 4 of the Western Conference semifinals against the Jazz, which was later revealed to be an ACL injury per Champ. The issue forced the forward to miss the remaining 8 playoff games for the Clippers, including all the Western Conference Finals, where the squad lost 4-2 to the Phoenix Suns. There was still hope Leonard could have returned if Los Angeles advanced, Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports reported in June. The focus is now getting healthy for 2021-2022. Leonard has a $36 million player option for the upcoming season and would arguably be the top player in the free agent class if he hits the open market. The 5-time All-Star is one of the top two-way players in basketball, averaging 24.8 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and 5.2 assists, and 1.6 steals per game last season. He remained efficient while shooting 51.2% from the field, 39.8% from the three-point range, and 88.5% from the free throw line. Leonard is best known for his postseason success, leading both the San Antonio Spurs and Toronto Raptors to the NBA titles while winning a Finals MVP each time. Injuries have prevented him from playing more than 60 games in any of the last 4 seasons, but the wing will hope for better days ahead. I mean, this says it all, too. Leonard could have returned if Los Angeles advanced, Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports reported in June, which means the Clippers didn't think it was a torn ACL. Because if it's a torn ACL, he's not returning for that fine. He's not returning if they made the finals. He's not returning. He's going to miss part of next season now. I definitely think that trust and got a little lost there, and I definitely think there's a sign of frustration maybe on Kawhi's end, like you label this as this and this, and now this is the case. I definitely think there's a level of frustration, but we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, this just makes free agency a whole lot more interesting because Kawhi's got a choice. He either goes out free agency and maybe is not getting all the deals that he wanted because he was, because he's injured now, or he remains with the Clippers and there could be a trust factor that's broken there. And if he goes to the Clippers and they lose and they don't make it again for a third straight year, the next season's getting all blown up anyway. And that's really how it is. So we'll see what happens, but free agency is just gonna be wild. I mean, in any sport it really is, but especially when you get the stuff like this, like injuries, and you add on to like the Clippers and the organization is and now you add on everything else, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh gosh, it's gonna be interesting. So definitely a very interesting development, and we'll see how everything else plays out. We'll see how everything else plays out. And, that's what I got for the Kawhi Leonard. And let's get into the New York Sports Update. Let's get into the New York Sports Update here. Alrighty. Alright, so for the MLB today, obviously only one game on today, or actually should get to the NBA. Yesterday, the Bucks won 109-103. As I mentioned earlier, Giannis with the big block late. Chris Middleton led the way with 40 points. Giannis 26, Drew Holiday 13, Brook Lopez 14. Obviously, Booker had the big night, 42 points. Chris Paul struggled, had only 10 points, and the Bucks win 109-103. Obviously, Giannis 26 points, had a big game. As for today in the MLB, we got the Yankees and the Red Sox. The Yankees come in this game 46-43. Red Sox come in this game 55-36. This game goes on today, 7:08 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Boston's got Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound. He's 6-5 with a 5.52 ERA. The Yankees don't have an announcement on their pitcher. So we don't know who the Yankees pitcher is going to be for tonight's game, which is why, to be honest, I'm not going to give you a game pick yet because I have no clue who's pitching. If it's a bullpen guy, we've struggled this year with the Red Sox, so it's going to be tough either way. But it's not fair to give you a prediction on who's going to win when I don't know the starting pitcher. So, and in fantasy baseball, as I said earlier, I'm losing 36 to 367 to 277, and today I've got going Luke Voigt. Could it be Cole coming off of the, couple days rest here? He pitched on Saturday. It's Thursday. Could it be Cole? I'd imagine if it was Cole, they would have already announced it. Maybe the Yankees are being a little tricky here, but, if your ace is on the mound, wouldn't you have already announced it? You're not going to... I have a feeling that the Yankees are probably going to do a bullpen game today or have, Nestor Cortez pitch, because Nestor Cortez would be the most obvious option. He pitched Friday... Monty, either or. But, if you wanted to do more of a bullpen game, you could say Nestor Cortez today, Monty tomorrow, Cole Saturday, Tyone Sunday, something like that. It all depends. But for not announcing a starting pitcher, it's kind of weird. It gives me that suspicion that the Yankees might be aiming more towards a Nestor Cortez, a guy that's going to give you, 3, 4, 5 innings, and then, hopefully that your bullpen gives you some good production late. That's an option. Could just going straight up with Monty could be an option as well. It's still kind of one of those things that's up in the air. So I'm not entirely sure. You could go with Monty. You could go with Nestor Cortez. You could throw your ace out there in game one and try and get the lead. You could do a lot. I'm just trying to think of the other options. You're not pitching Tyone. And Tyone's been good, but he's pitched Sunday. You're not just going to throw him again. You're not going to pitch Tyone two straight games. The most obvious, if you're going off of days pitched, it would technically be Montgomery. Technically, this would be Montgomery's days to pitch, because it was Nestor Cortez, Cole, Tyone. It would technically be Montgomery because Montgomery pitched Thursday. Montgomery hasn't pitched in a week. Montgomery pitched last Thursday, which was against the Mariners. So he hasn't pitched in a week. So the most obvious option would be Montgomery. But with them not announcing a starter, I feel like it might be Nestor Cortez, a guy that's going to give you 3, 4, 5 innings, and you go and you kind of do a bullpen game. And then tomorrow, I think you got to try to get back to the plan, go with Monty tomorrow, and then go with Cole, and then Tyone, and then so on and so forth. We'll see. Cole, I don't know how I feel about Cole starting tonight. I would rather save Cole for the weekend, especially if it comes down to winning the series or evening up the series. I would rather Cole on the mound than throwing him out there in game one kind of unnoticed, The extra rest can't hurt either because the guy threw 129 pitches on Saturday. But definitely an interesting thing. And like I said, I can't give you a winner yet because I don't know who's pitching. Right, if Cole's on the mound, I feel confident. But the Yankees' bats also got to come alive. Nestor Cortez on the mound, I feel confident. Monty, Tyone, right? Those guys you feel good about, but you definitely know you're gonna need to put up some run support. And we'll see. We'll see what the Yankees decide to do. The Yankees are not usually like this. It's coming out of the All-Star break, so it makes sense why they haven't announced the starting pitcher yet. Coming out of the All-Star break, you're still trying to figure it out. But we'll see what they decide to do. So, but that will do it for the podcast here today. obviously, another good podcast in the books. Tomorrow is Friday, so we'll finish off the podcast for the week tomorrow. And, as always, thanks for watching. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.